Thank you for being here, and thank you for your generous time with our faculty, and both in terms of presentation and discussion, and stimulating the conversation around scaling what we've been working on at Ross for 25 years. Could you share with us a little more about what you think those implications could be? Because your writings, your talks, the way you think is always putting things in historical context, whether it's economics, whether it's technological, whatever it is, you're putting your ideas in context, which was really our belief 25 years ago, that for deeper understandings and making meaning of a revolution that we're in right now, we have to have historical context.
Well, we are on a transition into a new era in history, a new journey, and probably the most decisive journey we've had in the 200,000 years that anatomically modern humans have been here on this planet. We are moving into a period where the challenge is survival. We're moving from an age of progress to an age of resilience. The fact is that we now, after 2 industrial revolutions, we've spewed so much CO2 and methane and nitrous oxide into the atmosphere in this little planet that we are in real-time climate change. The key is the water cycles are dramatically shifting because for every 1 degree the temperature goes up on this planet, the atmosphere is absorbing 7% more precipitation from the ground, so we're getting more violent water events, more dramatic winter snows, more violent spring floods, more droughts in the summer and wildfires, more Category 3, 4, and 5 hurricanes. And in real time now, our scientists tell us we are in the 6th extinction event of life on Earth. Hard to grasp because there's only been 5 mass extinction events in 450 million years on this little planet, way before we were here. But each time the chemistry of the planet shifted, suddenly a massive die-out. 10 million years each time to get new life back here. And now our scientists tell us that the exponential shift in the water cycles are collapsing ecosystems all over the world, and we are in the 6th extinction event in real time. This is not a model. We may lose over half of all the species on this planet within the next 8 to 9 decades in the lifetime of young people who are here now. We don't know if the human race will survive the 6th extinction of life on Earth. So we need to rethink education to prepare our young people for a completely new period in the human journey. It's unmapped. We understand what's coming in broad strokes, but our educational system is not designed for our survival and creating an era of resilience and dramatically changing the way we interact with the biosphere and the ecology and ecosystems on the planet. And so when we have places like the Ross School that are beginning to understand this new form of education, which has to be systemic thinking, interdisciplinary studies, critical perspectives has to be shared so we create a more empathic human being that can learn to be comfortable in a global community that's digitally connected. The next mission now is how do we take this young generation that's Skyping global classrooms. We have 1.5 billion kids on Facebook. It's the largest fictional family in history. And they're beginning to become part of this 3rd industrial revolution, this coming together of the communication internet, renewable energy internets, automated transportation logistics internet to manage, power, and move economic activity. And they're becoming part of this new sharing economy that's emerging from digitalization. The mission now is for places like the Ross School, which are small oases. They are test grounds where you spend 20 years in developing the kind of mind you need to become engaged as a participant in the biosphere. A critical mind, systemic thinking. You now need to scale this. It's essential to find kindred spirits, those little pockets of education around the world that are looking toward helping prepare a young generation to live as a responsible member of the biosphere, to see the biosphere of the Earth as their indivisible community. This is the critical journey that has to begin to scale very quickly because we have to make this shift into a 3rd industrial revolution, post-carbon, sustainable world in less than 4 decades, or we may not make it. It's really as serious as that.
So you're here today to work with our teachers. And you know, we often speak at Ross that we have 2 schools, 1 school for the teachers, 1 school for the students. And of course they overlap. So if we're talking about making a profound difference in bringing issues to the forefront for teachers worldwide, how do you feel in terms of scaling teacher education?
Yeah. Well, you know, there are now these shared open source consortiums where teachers are sharing curriculum globally on the internet. What we need to do now is we need faculty to come together around the world that's moving toward this new idea of education and begin to create a consortium to share their best practices and begin to create curriculum that is globally relevant, but then brings together the mass diversity so that we can begin to learn to grow up this generation as a cohort that can begin to share this planet as an extended human family with our fellow creatures. That's really essential at this point. I think it's a difficult journey, but the technology is there. And within the next few years, we're going to be able to have real live virtual classrooms. So instead of a virtual experience that's edited after the fact, we now have some virtual experiences that have already been live. For example, I think one of the golf tournaments went live, and some other sporting events where you're actually there in real time. Classrooms are going to begin to do that in the next few years, where you virtually can be in real time in another classroom in another part of the world. And virtual touch is now coming in, where you'll be able to actually manipulate things in that classroom with each other. So this is going to be a dramatic change in temporal spatial orientation. For the first time in history, an individual can be in two places at once and be able to interact with fellow human beings across space and time in a way that is close to being there in person. This is a new way to extend empathic sensitivity. So we begin to actually learn as a cohort, students and faculty, to actually prepare each other for the learning experience. And let me say the learning experience has to really change. We have classrooms that were born in the first and second industrial revolution, and the mission of the school is to prepare young people to attend machines in an industrial era. In the traditional classroom, the student learns that their mission is to be responsive to the teacher, of course, to accept authority, to ask the how of things, but not the why of things. And if you share knowledge in the classroom as a student, you're cheating and you're expelled. So they have the whole idea that knowledge is something an individual secures so that they can compete with other individuals in the marketplace and society. That kind of classroom doesn't fit a third industrial revolution. We have young people who are growing up on an Internet of Things platform, a third industrial revolution, where they're sharing their talents in open source, and by benefiting the networks they're in, it improves the social capital of everyone in the network. They are a sharing society, this young group, and they're sharing their cars and they're sharing their homes, and young millennials are having their children share their toys. They're beginning to create a completely new way of understanding the relationship in a digitally connected world. We need a new classroom where the school is designed so it's distributed, collaborative, transparent, and open. A teacher's mission is to create the framework for the stories, to be the interlocutor, to be the guide. But the new classroom, we would see students becoming part of teams where they learn to teach each other. It's a socializing experience. They learn that sharing knowledge is the ultimate experience of being a human being, that our knowledge is something we share with each other. It's a social experience. It's not an individual domain. We need team teaching, where students are involved in teaching each other with a professor or the teacher helping to guide. I think we need to move from the idea of departments to competencies. We need competencies in various disciplines. We need, though, more of the disciplines working with each other, so our students are exposed to cross-disciplinary thinking. So rather than departments, competencies. So if they are learning a subject matter, they should have the best of their faculty across all the disciplines, providing different perspectives, different ways of looking at things, so children learn how to think systemically and mindfully and critically. I think we should seriously look at eliminating some grades, because that's an individual thing. A person gets a grade, so it gives them a status in relationship to another student. Knowledge is power. We need to, I think, begin to look at eliminating grades so that teams pass or fail by the team, and you're certified. So if you do well on a course as a team and it's a group effort, you're certified for the next round. We need to move toward that. I think our learning needs to be more clinical. And so while one's learning in the classroom, one's actual experience of applying that learning should be in the neighborhoods where the kids serve. Now, in the United States, we have service learning, but it's primarily just volunteering, which is good. So you learn about social capital and giving back. And maybe you write an essay in class, but we need to see all learning being out in the community.
In the field.
So you actually learn by contributing to the well-being of the communities you live in. And understand the first mission of learning is to improve our collective sociability and our empathic regard for each other so that we create communities within communities within communities. I think these are basic revolutionary changes that go with the new third industrial revolution and the digital connectivity that creates more of a global empathic consciousness.
So, staying with teaching teachers or facilitating teacher learning with masters of different domains that are thinking about these things. So, for 25 years, we brought people here. Now we're actually wonderfully being able to bring people here and bring them here from other forums,
Yes.
whether it was TED Conference or OECD, or Google has a platform for speakers to come and work with their employees. So this idea of virtual global classroom, the potentiality for teachers is enormous. And we want to be able to share what our faculty is receiving here, but also to have the conversation organized around content. So our interdisciplinary curriculum is a departure point so that you have content in the center and actual discussions around that as opposed to just endless pedagogical discussions without the content that leads to biospheric consciousness.
Well, and here you call upon the students to share, if you will, their imagination, to share their cultural assets, if you will, so that they can become part of that multi-perspective way of learning. So they're learning by sharing their stories together, by sharing their experiences together. It's really fun, it's exciting, but it also should be rigorous from a pedagogical perspective as well. This is a big mission, creating a global classroom with all of its diversity. And that's what we need. We need a global classroom so cohorts can come up together, and the biosphere is their indivisible community, and their cohort goes with them. Then we begin to see it's no longer us and the other. We are part of an extended human family. And I think we also have to make one more shift, and that is we need to reintroduce our young people to the natural world. These new technologies are great connected devices, but we need to reacquaint our young people with the living, breathing biology of this planet. They're afraid of nature, a lot of young people. They have no experience with it. They've never gone out in the dark skies and seen the stars. When they see a wild animal, their parents tell them, please, get out of the way. They're afraid of nature. We're losing our biophilia connection, and we cannot prepare a young generation to address climate change and mass extinction on this planet and create a new way of living if it's only done on the screen. So we have to find a way to use the technology to connect the human race. Then we have to provide more time for young people to actually be rejoined with the wild, rejoined with the natural world. In some ways, a lot of learning is unstructured as well as structured. So for every moment that we use the technology to connect with each other, perhaps some unstructured experience, let the young people put their cell phones away part of the time and be with the teachers and just be, experience, listen, smell, watch, be a part of, and reacquaint ourselves with this mysterious thing we call the biology of the planet, this biosphere. And the learning will happen. All these new experiences will happen because ultimately all of human education is based on the metaphors that have to do with the natural world we come from anyway. So I think this is a critical element that's now missing from the discussion about the digital revolution. We are so enamored with the technology, we can't have the medium be the message. The medium is just an opportunity for us to connect in a third industrial revolution economy and a global frame of reference as a family, but we need to spend an equal amount of time on reacquainting young people with the biosphere. And one of the missions is to rewild half the planet. This is a serious mission now taking place at the United Nations. It's taking place in the European Union where I work, in China. We human beings are using now 40% of all the net primary production photosynthesis on this planet. It's not sustainable.
Not sustainable.
So we need to rewild the biosphere and have young people enjoy the feeling of being engaged in a natural world. This is an oasis in the universe. We've not seen anything like this. And
Could
it's
you
not
speak
enough
a
to
little
see
bit
it on
about,
the screen.
can you speak a little bit about rewilding?
Yeah, we are. There's now movement afoot at the UN and other places to locate biosphere reserves. These are places that could be rewilded, or where we bring back the local flora and fauna. In the European Union, our third industrial revolution mission is in each region. The regions are responsible for rewilding part of the region, a good 50% if possible. So they're responsible for the 19 kilometers of their biosphere. In other words, the biosphere is that 19 kilometers from the stratosphere to the water where life and the chemicals interact to maintain life. Well, every region has to take half of their region and restore it, restore the local native flora and fauna, and actually reflourish their part of the biosphere. That's the only way this will happen. Some centralized authority on a global level is not going to do this. Each community has to be responsible for their biosphere in a third industrial revolution, and that requires that the communities become actively engaged. So in northern industrial France, in the Netherlands, and Luxembourg, where we're laying out these test regions, we've got the whole regions organized. So they are organizing themselves, not only to change their communication, their energy, their transport, to lay out the new digital technology, create the new jobs, but they're also engaging each other in the educational arena to reacquaint themselves with their biophilia connection, their connection with the natural world.
So let me ask you something, Jeremy. You do a lot of work in China, and Mandarin in this school is required from 5th grade to 12th grade. And we developed our own with the great help of a wonderful team of people who have designed a Mandarin curriculum that integrates Chinese history. Mm-hmm. So it's very important for people around the world to understand more deeply the complexity of Chinese history. Mm-hmm. And I know you've been working there. Could you share with us some of your experiences and what the goals are that you hope for?
I've been working for 15 years with the European Union. Now we're working with the leadership in China as well, and creating some partnerships there between the two. There is a recognition in China that we now need to have a new journey toward creating what they call an ecological civilization. This is a biosphere generation. Now, this is for a lot of reasons. The life expectancy in northern China, the industrial parts of China, is now decreasing because of climate change. So they're very aware of the need to create an ecological civilization, and they've passed an amendment to the state constitution that says that all future economic development in China must adhere to the prerequisites of nature, and each economic development must be in harmony with the natural world. Now, this comes out of the Buddhist and Confucian tradition, where in those traditions, humans aren't detached from nature. They're not the masters of nature, but the mission of every human being is to empathize and harmonize with the rest of the natural world, which is their brothers and sisters, our fellow creatures. That's not just academic. That's in the cultural DNA across Asia. So China, like many other countries in Asia, are very aware now of moving toward a new cultural imprint, getting that old DNA, cultural DNA back, and moving toward an ecological society. China is definitely leading it. They lead now in solar and wind technologies. They're moving toward the third industrial revolution frame that we've developed for Europe. And you're going to see a lot of things moving very quickly there.
And what is it in the recent 5-year plan that
well, the 5-year plan, which we help contribute to, there's a lot. They're going to have 5 million electric vehicles in the new 5-year plan. They're going to retrofit lots of buildings in China, turning them into micro power generating sites. They're going to spend $82 billion in the next 4 years, taking the whole electricity grid in China and digitalizing it so that millions of Chinese people can produce their own solar and wind where they live and work, and send it across a digitalized renewable energy internet, the electricity grid. They're going to be establishing an infrastructure based on bringing the communication internet that we already have together with a renewable energy internet across China, so people produce their own energy and share it, together with an automated GPS driverless transportation internet, road, rail, water, and air. You're going to have millions of electric and fuel cell vehicles powered by near zero marginal cost energy. The sun doesn't send a bill. The wind doesn't invoice. You're going to have these vehicles being driverless, road, rail, water, and air, very low marginal cost. They're beginning to move very fast on the sharing economy, as is Europe. So they began to share the vehicles, share the homes, share every part of life so that nothing goes to the landfill. Everything we produce is shared over and over again in what we call a sharing economy. So they're beginning to move in this direction along with Europe. Now we need to see this story in the United States. California is somewhat there, but the rest of the country isn't. And if we lose another generation, we're going to be lost here. We need, in the educational system, to begin to share best practices, move this new story of a third industrial revolution, a digitally connected world forward, begin to find our kindred spirits throughout the educational system and scale quickly, because it's a disservice for any student that cannot be part of this new educational experience. Their loss is the planet's loss. Losing a generation means we may lose much bigger opportunities to save this planet and to reflourish the earth.
Dr. Rifkin, thank you so much for being here at Ross, and we want you to come back. We will, I promise you, we're going to be working on that virtual classroom, both for teachers and students, and we'd love to have you back when we do that.
Well, I'd love to do that. I'd also like to, at some point, spend 2 or 3 days in the back of your classrooms actually learning from what the teachers and students are doing. It would be exhilarating for me. And let me say, I'm a real fan of the Ross School. Over these 25 years or so, you've really moved forward to create the kind of a test case that should be scaled everywhere. So I'm hoping that what you're doing here will have long legs, and you'll find all those kindred spirits in various countries around the world, and allowing a new generation to have an educational experience that really allows them to be a global citizens and to be part of an empathic community that extends to our fellow human beings and our fellow creatures.
Thank you
This is
very
the
much.
mission.
Thank you very
Thanks.
much.
My
Thank you.
pleasure.